Hello and welcome. I'm Randy Bueller. I've been joined for the last round tonight by a wild Chris Pakula. How you doing, Chris?
I'm doing pretty well. It's been a good week.
It has been a good week. Congratulations to you, that Grand Prix top 8. It's been a while since you've been in the top 8 of a Grand Prix, yeah?
It has been a while. Not as long as John Finkel's been a Grand Prix top 8. But still a pretty long time.
Oh, wow. Brutal. Gets you back on the Pro Tour too. That's the Japanese Pro Tour coming up, not Amen.
Yeah,
the next one.
Right, Kyoto at the end of July.
Sweet. Yeah, it was a lot of fun watching. And I mean, the best part for me, honestly, was just it was clear that you knew that draft format really well. Like, you've been drafting the hell out of that format. It was clear when you did the Magic Online Championships coverage that you knew that format really well.
Yeah, I mean, it was a surprising. Like, it is weird to we're so used to variance and things. So to actually practice more for a Magic tournament than you've ever practiced for, and then actually do well there is it's like a weird experience. You're like, especially because I've been struggling so much at Sealed Deck. I'm like, man, I've really practiced this a lot, but I've been losing. So what does that mean?
Yeah.
But then, the stuff I felt like I was learning actually worked, and what can you do? Even though it didn't work as I was learning.
Well, you can 9-0 day one is what you can do.
Yeah.
Then 3-0 a draft, and was there much of a sweat in the last round? Like, you didn't actually get a win out of the last deck, right? It was like 2 intentional draws, or?
It's true, but I only played 3 games with the deck.
Okay.
The first game I played with it, I didn't play a land on turn 3.
Okay.
The second game I played with it, I double mulliganed on the play.
Okay.
And then I won. In the third game I played with it, I won. So it's like,
fair enough.
Yeah, I didn't get any wins with it, but I didn't really play with it either. Basically, the way the tournament worked out is I was essentially locked at 12-0. So.
Oh, wow. Sure. Even before the last draft started. Right, because you went loss, intentional draw, and then we're like 7th.
Yeah. And if I had lost the last round, I actually would have got it if I hadn't got another draw.
Oh, wow.
So.
Fair enough. But we're here to talk about Vintage. Appreciate you stepping in. I know Oliver, I don't know, maybe he's got homework to do or something.
That's good. He's got to put that scholarship money to good use.
There you go. And we'll let Rodrigo off the hook. He's in Spain. It's a little late. So happy to have you here. This is actually a pretty big match for the way these playoffs are playing out. Our playoff format for VSL this season, it's double round robin. So we're about to watch Eric and Paul play. That's the only matchup we haven't seen for these Final Four competitors. And they're both 1-1 right now. So the winner goes in 2-1 to next week. The winner controls their own destiny, right? If they knock off Oliver, they can guarantee themselves at least a tie for first place. So the winner controls their own destiny. The loser's going to need a little bit of help next week, because next week is new set of decks, and then we just run back the round robin again, right? Everybody will play everybody a second time. Once everybody's played 6 matches, whoever's got the best record is our champion. Now, if there's a tie, we'll do a playoff match. We're not going to do tiebreakers. We're just going to play more Magic if there's a tie. But right now, Oliver's looking at the clean victory. He's got a 3-0. He's in the clubhouse. He's watching, I don't know, while he does his homework or goes out to eat or whatever.
So Oliver is basically going to be single-handedly responsible for banning Mentor?
Single-handedly. There's been no talk of it until now. But yes, Oliver has shown us the way. Definitely the Mentor deck looks like the best deck. I guess I haven't heard your take on it, but I'm definitely on board with restrict something, and I think the something's probably Gush.
I played 5 matches with that Mentor deck before I played it in VSL. And I did pretty well in VSL off basically no experience with the deck. Played 1 match really badly and still won.
Your specialty, right?
Yes, but the deck just didn't. The deck seemed pretty easy to just. I mean, obviously, I have a lot of experience playing with old school blue-white decks, but it seemed very powerful. Given that I didn't feel like I was doing anything except drawing my card and just doing what you do with the card. Like I mean, I got playing in the mirror when people have flusterstorms. It becomes a little tricky.
All right. Well, enough talking about Vintage. Let's go watch some. It sounds like our players are ready. Here comes the last match of the night. All right, here we go. Paul Rietzl has a blue-red, basically a Delver deck that he's added a couple of Skull Clamps into. Eric Froehlich on the Shuhei Nakamura version of the Oath deck, which, of course, everyone who isn't a Platinum Pro is going to call the Brian Kelly version of the Oath deck. Fair enough. How do you think these draws line up, Chris? Looks like Paul won the die roll.
So I have not seen this Oath deck in action that much because no one really started to play it in VSL until the season where I didn't play.
Oh, sure.
So, I mean, he's got Black Lotus in his hand, so I'm going to say he has a good draw.
Yeah, he needs to find an Oath of Druids, though. His draw doesn't actually do anything yet. That's always been my problem with the Oath deck. It's just a little more inconsistent, right? You got a couple of...
Historically, I thought Oath was terrible. Just because of what you're talking about. Like, he has Gush and Forbidden Orchard in his hand.
Exactly.
So,
Paul's hand's not exactly awesome.
No, but what is... Like, that's the thing about these... Well, I guess it's still a mentor style deck. They don't have explosive draws. Their hands are just supposed to look normal.
Yeah, I think it just looks worse to me is because I know Pyromancer needs an extra turn to kill. If Eric finds an Oath of Druids, Paul's gonna have a lot of trouble ever winning this game. Pyrite Spellbomb is actually a serviceable removal spell here, isn't it? Yeah. Hilarious.
That's interesting.
It is the kill card for the Bomberman combo, but it's also capable of picking off young Pyro.
So, wow. Sirens at my house, very rare. Why does this Oath deck always play a Soul Ring? What does it do with Soul Ring mana? We just don't see that many Soul Rings these days outside shop decks. Reed usually plays a Soul Ring in his mentor decks, but a lot of people don't.
Right. That's a fair question. Snapback the Gitaxian Probe is Paul's play, not young Pyro.
Yeah, I guess that shows he's worried, right? I guess he just doesn't want to get the Pyromancer Spellbomb.
He's baiting the Spellbomb. Paul Rietzl with a bunch of 2/1s in his hand. He's like, I got this. I'm fine. Some dorky removal spells versus my 2/1s. I know how to play this game. Attack with the bad one. Make him use his removal spell. Then we'll get him.
Well, I guess we're going to see what Soul Ring does. Potentially just hardcast Gush this game.
I mean, if Eric needs to find an Oath.
He's got a lot of time, though.
I mean, he has a medium amount of time. I don't know if it's a lot.
Well, I mean, I think it's a lot. I mean, these are vintage decks. An 8-turn clock is not going to get the job done.
Yeah, I guess between the misstep and the Spellbomb, it really is an 8-turn clock, isn't it?
Yeah.
Time to draw some cards. Paul is quite flooded.
Yeah.
Think about he's got the similar sort of Turbo Xerox mana base that the Mentor decks have. It's all cantrips and not very many lands. He kept Probe Creature 4 lands, and he has since drawn into 2 more mana sources.
Is that a good hand against Oath? Probe Creature 4 lands?
It's not great.
It's not great.
Paul's not a big believer in the mulligan button.
I've noticed a lot of the players who I think are better than me feel like they mulligan less, but I don't feel like they mulligan less because
they win despite mulligan less. Oh, by the way, Eric did find Oath of Druids last turn, and Snapcaster Mage is enough to turn it on. Here's Auriok Salvagers. The combo's right in front of you. There's the Black Lotus. There's the Pyrite Spellbomb. Paul very quickly reaches for the right click.
Yeah, that was not a super interesting game.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like
the one decision, you're right, the only decision Paul made that had any real relevance was, do you mulligan 4 land, a Snapcaster, a Gitaxian Probe, and a young Pyromancer?
It doesn't seem very good when you know what you're playing against.
All right, apologies for the lack of a sideboard cam here. I guess that Athena stepped away from her computer, not realizing the game was about to end.
All right, here we go. What is that weird red? Is that slice and dice or something? What is that?
It is. How good is slice and dice in this matchup? It's insane, right?
Yeah, I mean, without it being mentor, it's really insane.
It is an uncounterable way to kill every single creature in Paul's list.
Did these guys share deck lists or something?
Yeah, they do not. Well, not beforehand. I think Eric this is the kind of thing Paul likes to run. I think Eric also has Pyroclasm specifically in case Paul showed up with a beatdown deck. Like, it is Paul Rietzl. Eric has seen the guy play. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, this is what has made Ifro such a powerful opponent in Vintage Super League. Like,
his metagame reads are insane.
Yeah, he metagame read in just an unbelievable way and plays cards that no one else would play that just totally destroy you.
Yeah, we saw him destroy Rodrigo with the double energy flux draw. Not only did he have sideboard cards for Paul, whatever beatdown deck Paul tried to run, he specifically chose white bordered copies of his Pyroclasms for extra tilt value.
That is pretty funny. Yeah, so so Paul's not playing white. How does he stop Oath? What does he have?
He's got some Grafdigger's Cages. They're in the 1 mana column. They're just scrolled to the bottom of the screen.
Oh, okay.
I forget how many cages. I can look that up. But he does have 2 copies of Grafdigger's Cage. Yeah, he can't remove an Oath. Wow, this matchup's terrible for Paul. Yeah, he's all in on basically 2 copies of Grafdigger's Cage.
And he chooses to take out the Delver. It's very different than how the Legacy version of a matchup like this would go.
It may actually be a matchup where the Skull Clamps matter. Like, Paul's going to need to dig,
right,
I think.
Because he has to counter. Yeah, he needs to have overwhelming card advantage to make sure nothing slips through.
Does have the cage in his opener.
But just one. He has a preordained, so he should be fine.
Yeah.
But Library of Alexandria.
Card's still good.
Yeah, Library is pretty tough here. Because this is like, Paul's going to think he can kind of slow play it. I have the cage, and
Well, he'll find out pretty quick.
right, but then what can he do? I mean, he doesn't even have a second land, so he's very likely to not be able to cast Pyromancer on turn 2 and get things going.
I mean, he's going to preordain. He's going to hope to find a land. He's going to hope to be able to go Pyro, Cage, Gush, etc.
Yeah, I guess against the deck, I guess there's no reason to cage turn 1.
No, you don't need to do a turn 1.
Because you're not playing against Spell Pierces, you're playing against Flusterstorms.
And there's the Volcanics, so turn 2 Young Pyro online.
Oh, but there's the misstep.
I think we may have overwhelmed the misstep targets with this hand. Adding Ancestral on top of Grafdigger's Cage. Eric, do you force a will? It's an interesting question.
Well, I can't imagine. No, I think you do, because what are you going to do with 2 Flusterstorms in this situation? And you have an active library, so why not?
Yeah, library's up to 8, forces down to 6. Draw step will get him back from the library. I like it. Pitches the second copy of Flusterstorm.
Yeah, this is a man who knows how to use Library of Alexandria, too.
Oh, yeah.
He didn't draw on his turn and play the Mox. He just drew up to 8 on his opponent's turn.
That's how you keep Force of Will turned on.
Yeah.
All right, Paul just hoping this Ancestral is going to work. He played the land first so that he could pay for Flusterstorm. That was smart.
So he will be able to get Eric off library now, if Eric Flusterstorms.
Yeah, presumably that's actually an interesting decision. Does Eric stop the Ancestral when it takes him off library? I think yes. Yeah, he thinks yes as well.
Yeah, I guess it's correct, although...
I mean, he's effectively trading 1 library card for 3 on the next turn after.
Well, it's not really exactly 1 library card, right? Because it makes him have to play in a way that he accumulates cards again. Again, how many Gushes are in his deck?
2 or 3.
Well, that makes it easier. Giving up your library for a couple turns is a lot easier when you know you might just draw a Gush.
Sure. Paul failed to gush into an answer to that Flusterstorm, but he did find a Time Walk. Oh, interesting. Paul gets to resolve both Skull Clamp and Grafdigger's Cage here. At least with the Skull Clamp first, because it's not as important. Oh, he does not play the Cage. Interesting. I would have run Cage out there, I think.
Yeah, I guess the reason not to run the Cage out there is if you think there's
artifact removal?
Well, if you think that there's some way where like Eric would have to expend resources to cast Oath, then you could punish him for it. But that doesn't exist in this deck, right? Like there's nothing he's going to have to do.
Well, you'd love to have a Forbidden Orchard token if you're Paul Rietzl with a
that's true. So that is
Skull Clamp is actually pretty sexy anti-Forbidden Orchard tech.
Yeah.
End step Orchard still triggers Oath, but then you get to draw a couple cards. It's probably not good enough now that I think through it, but makes it slightly awkward. Balance.
Balance. The return of balance to Vintage is probably the thing I most like about the new format.
Yeah, I don't know how much you've been watching tonight, by the way, but balance has been insane.
Oh,
there
really?
have been multiple games single-handedly decided by devastating balances.
That's great.
Yeah, we saw turn 2 balance to as Mind Twist You. It was.
Oh wow, that's old
times.
That's really
it was
old.
like land 3 Moxes. It was.
Who did that? Eric, I guess.
Was it Eric? I think it was Eric.
Eric always does all the best stuff. Yeah, this situation right here is why when I played Mentor, I played Pyroblast instead of Flusterstorm. And I felt like a lot of games it didn't work out for me very well, but a game where you can just have a card that you can just draw and kill Jace the Mind Sculptor seems... Just having that out makes a big difference. Oh boy, this is not looking good for Paul.
Mm-mm.
He just has to go for Jace here, right?
I think so. It's not going to work, but Eric, I guess he's going to get a Brainstorm out of it before Eric Pyroblasts it. That's about the
he might hard cast Force of Will.
Oh, sure. Interesting. You don't give him the Brainstorm that way?
You can just Pyroblast it on the stack, too. But he has 5 mana and no other blue cards, so...
Yeah, it's really just a question whether you want to use Force of Will or Pyroblast. He's got the Salvagers. Just doesn't have anything to do with it currently. And Eric Froehlich already up a game, so this night may be over relatively soon. It's really just a question of Eric leveraging the advantage he's got.
He's playing it slow. I did catch one other game where he seemed to have just an overwhelming advantage. It was just playing it as slow as can be.
That's the Shuhei version of the Shuhei Othamura.
I mean, he could have cast Oath with Forbidden Orchard last turn.
I mean,
Eric is... Go ahead.
If he did go for Oath Forbidden Orchard, he does potentially lose to Cage. It's not like he's found an answer to Grafdigger's Cage. I guess he just now found that mental misstep.
Lose to Cage is pretty loose.
You're giving it. He's got a Skull Clamp, and you just gave him Orchard tokens. You're down like.
But it's like you say, you don't have to give him the Orchard token until the end of the turn.
Right, fine. Well, he's giving him the Orchard token.
Oh yeah, or you give it to him right now.
Wow. And we're done. Paul is just so far behind. Oh, you know what that was? Oh, Paul, was that going to be Hardcast Grizzlebrand? That was Black Lotus Forbidden Orchard. Paul just denied us a Hardcast Grizzlebrand, didn't he? Where's the fun? Come on, it's not that late, Paul.
He was losing.
The pool is still up with us.
Yeah, he was losing by a lot, though. He was losing so many ways. He was like, yeah.
So, Eric Froehlich wins 2-0. Paul Rietzl's deck just did not really work out in that match. And there you see Paul on 1 and 2. Eric moves up to 2 and 1. So Eric does still control his own destiny, but it is Oliver Tew who's in the catbird seat. 3 and 0 going into next week, where they're just going to run it back. Everybody will play everybody again, and we'll look at the standings. We'll see if we have an untied winner. They get first place. Eric is actually the defending champion and the only 2-time champion. I'm sure he'd love to rattle off a third VSL title here, but
oh yeah,
he's going to have to beat a mentor deck at some point. He's going to have to beat Oliver Tew with a mentor deck in his hands, I would think.
I'm sure he'll, Eric's going to have something ready for the metagame next week. So no question about that.
He took the first game from Oliver tonight, but couldn't get the other two.
Yeah, I mean, the whole fragmentize, or I don't know how much. I mean, fragmentize, containment priest. There's just a lot of hate for Oath.
Yeah, it's certainly true.
And none of those cards are red, so it makes the Pyromancer deck seem a lot tougher.
Didn't work out for Paul. That's certainly true. Well, that's going to pretty much do it for our show tonight. Pretty cool night. We got to preview an Amonkhet masterpiece. I got to use the words bevel and cartouche both in that segment. Dark Ritual looked pretty sweet. I was happy with it. There you get another good look at it.
In fact, that might be the best looking one. I mean, I haven't seen all of them. I saw quite a few of them tonight. This one looks pretty nice.
Yeah, I think it's super sweet. Definitely want to pick up some of those to add to my vintage stock. Meanwhile, we got some nice sweet matches of Magic. Come back next week when we'll run back the round robin. These guys are going to get to submit new decks. We've got one more week of Vintage Super League, and I think next week we'll do some talking about what's next for Super League. I know Chris has been in some of these conversations. Not quite ready to unveil any plans, but got some stuff cooking that is potentially quite sweet. You'll agree to that?
Oh, yeah. There's sweet stuff cooking.
All right. Come back next week. We'll talk about it, and we will crown a VSL winner. Thanks for watching, everybody. See you next time.